bye-bye to Battery and Bold. We pushed back the darkness and had the bell toll for the mines in the valley 200 years old, and the hard men from Arigna who dug for the coal. They left scars on the mountain and broke down machines. Their ghosts walk the valleys in hobnail boots and jeans. Their bones in the graveyard where sometimes lovers dream. But their story has ended in the Miners' Museum. There were Shanakees in a coal mine and gamblers there too, footballers and hurlers and folks like me and you. There were poets in a coal mine and heroes there too, farmers, musicians and folks like me and you. They left scars on the mountain and broke down machines. Their ghosts walk the valleys in hobnail boots and jeans. Their bones in the graveyard where sometimes lovers dream. But their story has ended in the Miners' Museum. It's summer in Arigna, the mines are all closed down. Black dogs and white dogs roam through the town. Young children playing, the weather is fine. Their youth will not end when they go down the mine. They left scars on the mountain and broke down machines. Their ghosts walk the valleys in hobnail boots and jeans. Their bones in the graveyard where sometimes lovers dream. They left scars on the mountain and broke down machines. Their ghosts walk the valleys in hobnail boots and jeans. Their bones in the graveyard where sometimes lovers dream. But their story has ended in the Miners' Museum.
Trouble and strife from early morn till late in the night. It's a hard life, it's a hard life. He promised I'd have pearls and lace and sheets of silk my bed to grace. His eyes were as black as his grimy face, for I chose to marry a miner. Oh, who would be a miner's wife? From dawn to dusk it's trouble and strife, from early morn till late in the night. It's a hard life, it's a hard life. The sheets are white for just one day, but I know they'll never stay that way. life. Oh, but he'll retire some fine day, and we'll sit by the hearth till the close of day. When his hair is white and mine is grey, I'll be glad I married a miner. Oh, who would be a miner's wife? From dawn to dusk it's trouble and strife, from early morn till late in the night. It's a hard life, it's a hard life. Oh, who would be a miner's wife? From dawn to dusk it's trouble and strife, from early morn till late in the night. It's a hard life, it's a hard life.
On the 6th day of January 1923, Captain Michael Cull became a part of history. He was felled by a bullet from a Free State gun in a war between brothers that could never be won. Through North Roscommon, Sligo and by Leitrim's lakes and glens roamed men whose cause had led them out in conflict with their friends. A war where every victory was tainted by defeat, where Brother Cain laid Brother Abel at his father's feet. Brothers in blood they fought each other, brothers in arms fought side by side. Civil war set brother against brother, they fought and by their brother's hand they died. By mountain streams they quenched their thirst, by woods they slept at night. They left their sweethearts and their wives to join the hopeless fight, whose whose noble cause was freedom, yet they failed to see that killing your own brother could never set you free. By the sweet Arigna river in the early morning mist, Seamus, Colin, Patrick, Timon were added to that list. Their mothers mourned their passing, their brothers turned and cried, for it was by their brothers' hands these two young men had died. Brothers in blood they fought each other, brothers in arms fought side by side. Civil war set brother against brother, they fought and by their brothers' hands they died. Throughout the course of history, young men have shed their blood and soldiered to advance the causes they believed were good. But win or lose, they do not choose to sacrifice their lives, while the ones who cause such evil reap the glory and survive. In the broad Arigna valley, down the lonely mountain lane, a monument stands silent to the memory of the slain. For leaders lie and young men die, and the world turns sick and sore. Let leaders die, young men pass by, that's an end of the war. Brothers in blood they fought each other, brothers in arms fought side by side. Civil war set brother against brother, they fought and by their brothers' hands they died. Yes, they fought and by their brothers' hands they died.
An old miner sat by a barroom fire. He sipped from his drink and he said, once there were coal mines all over this land, but now all the mines are dead. Once every factory, foundry and mill gave workers a reason to sing, with bread on the table and children well fed, in the days when coal was king, in the days when coal was king. The clash and the clatter of Lancashire's looms were powered by steam and coal, and he said for the thousands who worked in the gloom, it was better than life on the dole. The fires of the foundries lit up the land, they glowed like a golden ring, supplying the factory cities and farms, in the days when coal was king, in the days when coal was king. No more did the reaper and thresher go out to harvest the grain for our bread, for great hissing engines then took to the field, and threshing mills worked in their stead. The road workers laid down their barrows and picks, and beheld what the future would bring, as steamrollers pulverized rocks on the roads, in the days when coal was king, in the days when coal was king. Liners and schooners all gave up their sails, and funnels rose up in their place. And steam trains on steel rails swept over the land, replacing the wagons and drays. From shanty to city the candle gave way to gas lamps where moths on the wing danced round in the glow of their comforting light, in the days when coal was king, in the days when coal was king. An old miner sat by a barroom fire, he sipped from his glass and he said, I'm all alone now and the old world is gone, just memories fill my head. If I had one wish and if wishes came true, then I'd wish for just one thing, that I could be back in my boyhood again, in the days when coal was king, in the days when coal was king.
The dreary siren sounds the day, the silent risers kneel and pray for the weary miners where they lay in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. For the mountain gives us what we need, and we have hungry mouths to feed. So we work according to our creed in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. Our pleasures often are denied, our station slighted and decried, but we can labor and provide in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. The pick and lantern, that's our share, and God will keep us in His care. For here we do and here we dare in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. For the mine holds dangers dark and deep, and we must ever vigil keep, for fear we'll find eternal sleep in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. Our wives and children bid us go, and wonder if we're safe below. No sun, no moon, no rain, no snow, in a 2-foot seam of mountain ore. And once a week is heaven sent, for then our pittance can be spent. We wash and shave and be content above the mine and the mountain ore, above the mine and the mountain ore. Who says the life of the miner is marred by the hours that he toils, by the work that is hard? Though he lives with the curse of the dirt and the dust, there is beauty around in his own backyard. There are places in life you are hopelessly bound to, like the tide to the moon, like the rocks to the clay, and the feel of the cold in your soul somehow found you. From this place called Arigna, you won't get away. This life underground is a world that is strange for those who have worked through the shift and the change, while those still remaining remember its worth. There is more to the miner than coal dust and dirt. There are places in life you are hopelessly tied to, like the moth to the flame, like the corn to the mill, and the dark of the mine makes you pine, though you've tried to turn your back on the beauty of forest and hill. Nature alone made these valleys and hills, its people alone, through whose hardships and skills bring that sense of belonging for which we have yearned, and whose long generations have nurtured and learned. There are places in life you are hopelessly bound to, like the salt to the sea, like the stars to the night, and the love of this land is the plan that has found you. It's a place called Arigna that's holding you tight. There are places in life you are hopelessly bound to, like the salt to the sea, like the stars to the night, and the love of this land is the plan that has found you. It's a place called Arigna that's holding you tight. It's a place called Arigna that's holding you tight. The ice had all melted and the lava cooled down. Those high rolling hills, they rose up from the ground. They formed the mountains with a grinding of gears. They settled and slumbered, settled and slumbered, settled and slumbered for a million years. When man claimed the valley, the mountain awoke, offered stone, offered slate for to house all the folk. The streams fill the rivers in the valley below, and the coal warmed the hearts, and the coal warmed the hearts, and the coal warmed the hearts through the wind and snow. Child of this mountain lived with sadness and joy. We're always protected as the long years roll by. They farmed and they mined and they danced and they sang. They wed and had children. They wed and had children. They wed and had children till the funeral bell rang. Winds of change are a-blowing, turning windmills around, and down in the valley the mines are closed down. Winds of change are a-blowing, valley folk have no fear, for the mountain will keep them, the mountain will keep them, the mountain will keep them for a million Oh, the apple never falls very far from the tree. These are the words that my father said to me when he left Arigna Valley a long time ago to work the Durham coal fields when the work at home was slow. Going home, that's the cry whenever we roam. It's the only light of pleasure that we see. It's our song, it's our signature. Our home is in Arigna, sure Arigna is the only place to be. Oh, my father was a miner, and his father was one too. His name it was McManus, and he married Anne McHugh, a beauty from Drumkeeran, and a girl without a care. He was a dark-haired miner, and they made a handsome pair. Going home, that's the cry whenever we roam. It's the only light of pleasure that we see. It's our song and it's our signature. Our home is in Arigna, sure Arigna is the only place to be. pleasure that we see. It's our song, it's our signature. Our home is in Arigna, sure Arigna is the only place to be. Oh, the pay was poor, the hours were long, and each man had his dreams to walk Arigna's slopes again and fish the mountain streams. But dreams are dreams, and many a man found dreams will often lie. They left their bones in Durham neath the coal black Durham sky. Going home, that's the cry whene'er we roam. It's the only light of pleasure that we see. It's our song and it's our signature. Our home is in Arigna, sure Arigna is the only place to be. He dug coal in Arigna, his life was tough and hard. He died away in Durham in a pit called Appleyard. He took us home each summer, and our summers were the best. We'll take him over one last time to have his final rest. Going home, that's the cry whene'er we roam. It's the only light of pleasure that we see. It's our song and it's our signature. Our home is in Arigna, sure Arigna is the only place to be.
Initially mining started here because of iron mining, and iron mining went on for years, and there were smelters down here in Arigna and another one in Dromahair, and they kind of worked in conjunction with each other at that time, and they were owned by the Riley brothers. But it fell through the iron mining back in the 17th century around that time, and coal mining started because of that. And they done a survey here some years after they found coal to see just exactly what was in it, and they employed a surveyor. He was an Englishman called Isaac Weld, and he found what was called the Colin coal fields, which comprised of 114,000 acres stretching to the borders Mayo and Galway, and the bulk of the coal was here in Roscommon, so they decided to start mining it here. Then they imported Scottish miners to show the people the locality how to mine and how to keep themselves safe, and they started off from that. Now, initially Lord Tennyson owned the mining rights here after the Riley. He built a big house or castle in Keeljoe which was called Coalville at that time. It's now known as Kilronan Castle. Coal mining went on then until there was a little bit of an uprising or trouble, and Lord Tennyson, I think, was ousted at one time, and the coal industry was taken over by the locals, mainly falling to the big company here, were Ladens, and they at one time employed, I think, between 500-600 people, directly and indirectly, and then there was a host of other mine owners as well. So there was a lot of mines working at one time here: Noons, Bruins, Ladens, Flynn, Lehenny, Doherty's, Wings. There was a whole host of them. A lot of them fell away in the early stages, and in the end there was only Flynn's and Winds on the other mountain, and Ladens here in Arigna. And eventually it folded up in 1990, and the mines here lay dormant for a lot of years. Ladens went into making fuel, smokeless fuel, which is going on at the moment, and they re-employed a lot of we'd say the miners. 70, I think, ex-miners were employed down there or in and around that. And Dennis Flynn opened a quarry on the site of his father's own mine, and that quarry is still going today, and he had I think 50 to 60 people employed up there. So all the miners nearly were re-employed, and some of course diversified, some retired, but the downturn wasn't quite as bad as they thought it could be.
Pleasure trip to down the Bogey Pit, an old miner there I found. I asked him walk with me and talk of his years spent underground. He says the pit is time I'd quit. My age I won't tell you, but to tell you the truth, I was a hardy youth back in 1932. 14 of them cut a tunnel in through Dernabogie, where that mine experience is now one time. 'Twas all, and Dernabogie was all rock, and those stone dust. There was only 6 of them alive in a few years after. Year in, year out, my daily route was the Dernabogie pit. I proudly strode the long straight road as my little lamp I lit, with a pick and a wedge and a 4-pound sledge, to do the job I knew, and 4 bob a day it was my pay back in 1932. 4 shillings he told me that. When I reached the gob I'd start my job, me kit bag I'd live down. I'd have to chance and turn a branch and put in a leg and crown. Lying on me side I'd cut it wide, while the water would soak through. Conditions then tested men back in 1932.
There was one young fella now who was a mate of mine. He was only in his 20s. There was a fall and he was trapped underneath it. The workmates, you see, pulled him out. Spinal injury, so he never walked after that. Died a few years after it.
A leg is the upright piece of wood supporting the ceiling, and the crown, when a wee tunnel has been propped by wood, you put 2 legs one each side, and you put a cross piece across that fits on the top of the 2 legs, and that is 2 legs and a crown, and that is called a set of timber in mining terms.
And I'd sit there in the darkness for about 20 minutes, and it was pitch black. I'd just sit there, wouldn't move, and you'd hear the roof cracking.
I'd be at my ease, down on my knees, shoveling coal and slate. I got many a shock from the bottom rock as I used my number 8. A hole I'd drill and stim and fill, all jobs I used to do. Roads I'd brush and hutches push back in 1932.
Stim and fill, that is, we drill a hole with an appropriate tool when we had electricity, and you would stim the shock by putting an explosive. You would get a wooden like a hand of a brush, and you would push in the sticks of gelignite and pack them together tight because you can't have space between them, and that is stimming the hole for to blow down the piece of ceiling.
He lit it was on a Friday evening, and he had 3 holes in his road, 3 shots. It was hard. The slate was hard, and he had to put 3 different holes in it, to blow it. And he had only time to light 2 or something, and he went out and he waited for the 2 to go off. And then
the shot didn't go off. He went back in to see what happened, why it didn't go off, and next thing it just went off.
He went back in to light the 3rd one, but the 3rd one must have got caught. And he just realised it when he was in. He was about 5 or 6 yards from it, and he just turned and it went.
Then near the slope a haulage rope we always kept in action, and see buckets slide down the mountain side with Arigna's main attraction. Our transport all was very small, and lorries very few. You'd never see a JCB in 1932. Arigna gay, it's many a day since first I saw your light. Though I'd some hard times down in your minds, still I loved you day and night. From the Grand Cross Alls to Bohan's Cross, the Boheen, the Horseshoe, to me remained the very same as they did back in 32. On the Sabbath day in my own old way I praise God's holy will, before his shrine that lashed all time at our church on Chapel Hill. And at the graveyard there I say a fervent prayer for the great men that I knew, that kept their place in near the face with me back in 32. Our great change, you see, in 1963 we got our own lounge bar, Flynn's opened. We can have our wine in our leisure time, and we haven't to travel far. It's in that joint I enjoy a pint when my working days through. So 'twas a shame that we hadn't that same back in 1932.
When the mines were working, for instance, Flynn's pub down the road there, or indeed McCrann's, you wouldn't get into them on a Sunday night, on a Saturday night. If you were after 8 o'clock, certainly on Sunday night you wouldn't get a seat.
Myself and him went in to Arigna's grand saloon, where we met a throng and dance and song, and the minstrels played the tune. He joined the fun, he drank beer and rum, and he sang the foggy hue. And proud I am to have met that man, that miner of 32.